Hey, we have the lovely Kayla with us. Some of you might have seen her on Pace's recent Zoom. She got highlighted, which is so cool. She had some awesome experiences where discussing where sometimes not everything closes and how that's okay. And I think that was really cool. She was able to share that with us. But she is going to actually hang out today and we're going to play a game of Would You Rather TC style. So thank you, Kayla.
Hello. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this will be good. So, all right, we're going to get into it. We have a few kind of start off or basic questions. We're going to start with a would you rather, mountains or oceans? What would be your
So
preference?
so I'm in Denver, so you probably think that I would say mountains, but I am choosing ocean. Ocean, beach all day, every day. That is my go-to. I would choose that time and time again.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm the opposite. I'm like, I feel like I like the idea of the ocean, if that makes sense. I'm like, I enjoy
Yeah.
being there. I like how it's just looking out at the water, the pictures of oceans that you see, stuff like that. But like to actually get in the ocean or be in the sand, it's not for me.
No?
I'd much rather just sit in like the mountains, have a fire, stare into the trees at the sky. That's my
Are
vibe.
you a camper? You like
Yeah.
camping?
I haven't been in forever, but yeah, I do love to camp. Yes, that's so funny. We got both sides. That's good. We're
Opposites,
advocating.
opposites. We are.
Okay, the
So
next
I'll ask the next one to
sure, go ahead.
you. So, would you rather connect via phone or Zoom?
That's a tough one. I think I think it depends on what it is. I think I would prefer I don't know. I think I would go maybe a Zoom. I felt inclined to say call, but I think a Zoom because I like seeing people's reactions and like getting that tone and like matching yeah, just seeing them. Because I feel like over the phone, sometimes you miss some of those. Just like if you talk with your hands or the way, I can see
Mhm.
you're upset or, oh, you're thinking something over versus when you're on the phone and you're just like, it's silent and you're like, is
What's
everything
going
okay?
on over there?
Right? Like, are you all right? Are you just thinking? Like, are you upset? You can't figure it out. So I think I'm gonna go with Zoom. I think I would pick that. What about for you?
So, I'm surprised it took you a couple seconds to think about it. I would have said Zoom for you all day long. So,
Oh,
for those that don't know Evita, she's in Zooms all the time and talk to your community. You're always on there, and with how you've been with social, I would have
yeah.
just been like, "She's gonna say Zoom."
No, yeah,
Um,
honestly, I really wanted to say a call because I'm like, usually I feel like I don't want to be in front of people. So I'm like, I'd rather just make a phone call and just walk around. And that's my other thing. Sometimes too, I like to just like walk around and me on the phone. And I feel like
mhm,
Zooms, I have to be not have to, but I guess for
sitting.
business, I do have to kind of focus on it. It's not something you can always like do while you're doing stuff versus like a phone call, depending on the conversation. I like that I could like go for a walk and have a conversation or be doing stuff on the side. So that was the like, hmm,
That's a good
maybe.
point. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I I am phone. I would rather be on the phone. Same
Okay.
thing though, like I can move around the house. I have a 6 month that's my sidekick at home, so I can like hold her and like move around and keep her happy while having
Yeah.
a conversation with a client or potential client. So
Yes.
I'm phone
I think that's
100%.
okay. I feel like both are good, honestly. That's why I was like, sometimes I feel like it depends, because you're
Yeah.
like, am I just meeting you? Do I already know you? Like where we can just pick up and like keep chatting? I think that's a good. I'd
Mhm.
be curious to see what other people feel towards that because I also know a lot of us live on Zoom, so it can get
True.
tired. Oh, all
It
right,
can.
let's see. So the next one is definitely, I feel like geared towards TCs because we have this appreciation for organization. And so, for those of you that don't get this one, that's perfectly okay. We just really, really enjoy the little things. So, I put, would you rather have your email nice and color coded, organized, or you can have your project management system. And by that, I mean the area where you're working your files. There's different programs. Some of us use Trello, Monday. There's numerous others. And I'm going to preface this too. I'm going to go with saying you can only have one or the other. They can't both be organized.
Okay. So this might make some TCs cringe. My email box is not organized, and that I have never been that way. I do value organization and I work well with it. However, my email, even in the corporate world, was never organized, and I can navigate it just fine. So 100%, I would rather have my project management board organized. I love color coding it. I love checking things off, and it needs to be organized. But email,
Get it? That's so
doesn't bother me.
That's good. I know. And we most recently had, I don't know if you were on that, but we actually had a whole Zoom about organizing your email with Ashley. And she is next level. I mean, she made it look so easy, but I am definitely guilty of like my email gets a little messy, especially the personal one. Forget it. Like,
oh, the personal one. Yeah. And all the spam that you get. Yeah.
Yes. And it's just, it builds up and you're like, we'll tackle it another time. Let's see. I don't know. I think I would go with, would I rather have my email or the project management? I think I would go project management as well. I was thinking it through because part of me was like, I feel like our roles involve a lot of emails and email chains. So I'm like, if you can keep it organized, I definitely see the value in that. But I think of the two, if I can find it in my system to know where we're at in it, I'm probably going to have notes in there to lead me to where I need to go in the email. So I think I would do the same. I think that would be.
And here's the thing with the email, which everyone's flavor is different, right? Like Ashley had mentioned that she wants everything in one thread. I'm opposite. I actually, on my emails to title and escrow, will put what specifically it's relating in the subject with the address always. So if I'm ever like, where's that email? Where is it in the thread? I don't want to like scroll down multiple pages. I can just search and then it's right there. So that's just how I work. Everyone has a different flavor, and that's totally fine. But that's kind of where I'm at with the email. It's like I have everything labeled how I want in the subject, and I can search for it and find it.
I think I lean that direction as well. I've seen both ways, but I feel like I agree because I think sometimes it's nice to have one long thread, but sometimes it's just like overwhelming, where now you're still kind of like, I still feel like you have to kind of go through it. It's in one place, which is great, but I still feel like that can be a lot. So I'm glad you brought that up because I do think both work. There's nothing wrong with either side in this.
Right. Absolutely. Just what works best for that individual.
Exactly. I agree.
Which leads into our next one. We talked about project management boards. TCs kind of geek out at this. So if you're not one or you're not familiar, you might be kind of lost in the conversation, but would you rather have Trello for your project management board or Monday?
So this is a good one. I, like many TCs I've talked to, I've kind of been testing both out. I went with Trello initially, and it was easier, I'm going to say, to set up for an initial basis. It made sense in my mind. It's got different boards. To me, I like to say it's almost like you're like sticky notes on a computer, where it's just, here's each category, you make a card, it makes sense. However, I have recently I built up a Monday board. And my reasoning to that is it's now making more sense to me. And I feel like as you progress and get busier, or if you consider having a team and those types of things, I think the structure of it and the automations and everything will be easier to manage as I go forward. So I've dived into that. So I guess at the moment, Monday would be the new one.
I'm with you. Initially, when I joined, I was solo. I was a solo to TC to start, and I was like Trello suits me. My team, now I'm on a team, Elite TC, and we use Monday, and it kind of made me nervous to start. Like, I'm like, gosh, I'm not familiar with this. I'm used to Trello, but
Yeah.
I love it. I love Monday. And to your point, like as more files are coming in, you're getting busier. It's really easy to track, and you can change it if it's not working, or you can add automations that you need to. And
Yes.
as far as a team standpoint, everybody knows exactly where you are in your file, and any comments, or if I was sick, for example, or needed to do something for my family, a teammate can step in and know exactly where that file's at. It's kind of dummy proof in a sense, where it's
Yeah.
just been really organized and anyone could just step in. Or if you're brand new and it's your first file, it's set up to kind of be a dummy proof of like, go through these steps and check them off,
Mhm.
and you can see like what's done and what needs to be done.
Yes. Yeah, I like that initial visual, and I like that you can real easily like expand different areas and then put it back, because I feel like in Trello I have to open each card, right? Which is great, but then when I'm searching something, I have to search the word or whatever, but now I have to open that card, and I can still move it down the line as far as where I'm at in a transaction, but I like that Monday you can just real quickly see where everything's at, what needs to be done, or open it up, you see the whole file, and then you can go right into the next one. I feel like it gives you a nice
Mm-hmm.
overview or detail depending on what you're looking for. And I'm sure there's a million features that I haven't even discovered.
Right. Yeah, it's great.
I love this. Okay, so our next one is starting to get into the actual TC stuff. So would you rather TC your own deals or hire TC?
Okay, so if I have to choose one, this one's hard because I have
This part.
different sides to this. I became a TC because I didn't feel comfortable or knowledgeable with deals that were presented to us. One, buy and holds, or two, PML opportunities. And I just needed this, I needed to have the knowledge and understand to protect myself and our investments.
Yeah.
So that's why I became a TC. So you would think that I would say I would do my own deals. However, I have a Gator team, and I invest for EMD with two other parties on transactions, and we have a TC. She's actually my teammate, but we have a TC that does all of those deals. So I'm hands off, and I like that. I actually think I might choose hire a TC, even though I can do it. And
Yeah.
I double check and I'm involved and I'm looking at it. But for having someone else's eyes on my own investment, I don't know. There's something reassuring to that, of like making sure that I'm not missing anything on my own, right?
Mhm.
Like, so, and that's kind of leads me to like, even as a team, that's what I love. I guess I'm getting off track, but it's like there's four of us. And while I'm primarily working a file, there's other eyes, or to be able to like catch what I don't see, because we're human, right?
Yeah.
Or like with,
Abs-
or, or like, I don't want to be a hopeless romantic with my own investment, as Molly would say, the
Yeah.
hopeless romantic. So if I have a TC looking at it and doing my deal, then I feel I remove that emotional piece, I guess.
Yes, that's just what I was thinking when you said that, of like you remove the emotion, because I think that's why we're beneficial and you have the TC hat on, because I'm like, I know some of us are investors too. So I'm like, but when you have that hat on, I feel like that's where we can come in as just being that third party of going, this isn't my investment. This isn't, I'm removed from this, and I'm just saying quite literally, this is what I'm seeing. This is what seems to be happening. Is that correct? And I feel like it is different. Like if your money's going into it, or like you're really excited to work with somebody, or you're on a deal, like I could definitely see it kind of, crossing that line where all of a sudden you're TC and you're like, well, I did the TC where, and shoot, you missed something because you're like, I was just really excited. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, I think for now, I would want to TC my own, just because I'm in the beginning stages. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm like, I would probably still be open to pairing up with somebody for that kind of second eyes. But I think I would enjoy TCing my own, because I feel like that's part of the learning. And then as I
Mm-hmm.
go, or as I get more business on the investment side, I think I would definitely hire a TC for a couple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I think I agree with everything you shared, but I also think to me, it's like share the wealth. So like, okay, if I'm doing deals in this sense, I'm like, let me help the community and like, let's bring in somebody else. Or now I'm the person that now maybe I would like to free up some of my time, or I would like to focus on this. And like you said, have that third party opinion. Why not help somebody else in the community, or pick out an expert of I'm now doing this style deal that may or may not be my expertise. Let me go get somebody that's what they're focusing on and have them look it over and see what they end up finding about it. So
yeah,
I think that's a good one.
absolutely. No right or wrong, right?
Right.
It's also situational,
So
I think, in a sense.
I feel like all of these are like it depends.
Yeah. Would you rather, so this is another TC focused question, have a file with a FHA loan or it be a pre-foreclosure?
Pre-foreclosure.
I'm with you.
My motto lately has been FHA, run away. Not everybody needs to agree with that. It's perfectly fine. Everyone has, I'm going to preface this with saying like everyone has a different risk tolerance. It's not to say if you do a deal with an FHA that like, oh, Evita said you're screwed over if you do this. No, not necessarily. For me, as I've been seeing deals kind of go by and struggles people are having, I think it's just, it takes the risk level up a few notches. You know, sub 2 is okay, got some risk here. Now you throw in, it's an FHA. To me, you're dealing with a government-based loan. There's just a lot involved in that. I feel like it's natural that there's a lot of eyes on it. I also think that there's a lot of title companies that are already not touching it. And so I think that adds another layer of struggle. That's kind of when you're trying to TC or help a deal, we're there to coordinate. But, you know, when you're coordinating, if there's not a lot of people to work with, that makes it hard. You know, I mean, we can only do our part. It's a team sport. We need some of these things to happen. And I just think the likelihood of also some of the risks on the back end are just really high of going, what are our chances of that getting called? What are, you know, I think everything just kind of goes up with that. And with title companies already saying we don't want to deal with that because of the risk, I feel like at a certain point, none of them will, or there's going to be more laws in effect. I mean, pre-foreclosures can be just as tricky. I'm just like, of the two, I would rather take my chance. And also that would mean it'd have to be a pre-foreclosure without an FHA.
Which there are pre-foreclosures with FHA.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, going back to your point of risk tolerance, everyone has their own. And not to say that pre-foreclosure isn't risky. It is. There's just certain criteria with that one.
Absolutely.
That like I wouldn't take a file if it's going to auction, like if they don't have a reinstatement letter. Let's say it's going to auction. I'll use an example.
Yeah.
So I choose pre-foreclosure. That's my answer. But there are stipulations. Like there's certain criteria for me to be able to help with that transaction, make sure that it goes through successfully. And so one, you want to make sure that the auction date is not like within a few days of them trying to get you to TC the file or a client bringing it to your attention. And especially if they don't have that reinstatement letter, because that can take 10 days or longer. So if we don't have the reinstatement letter, like then, you know, that, and it's going to auction within like a couple days, there's a couple ways you can still stop it. And we've educated our clients on that. And we've gotten an extension without having to do a loan modification. And that's been great. And we've been able to work with those clients and close those files and save the house from going to auction. But if it's like they've already got an extension, they have a couple days until the auction, they're not going to be granted another extension, and they don't have a reinstatement letter, I wouldn't TC the file.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, these are very generic questions. I'm like, and it's very
I know.
Yeah, I'm like, if I have to pick, this is it. But no, you're absolutely right. I think obviously foreclosure scenarios do tend to be very time sensitive, as many of these transactions are, I feel like, that we deal with. But I think it's key to mention that like we can potentially help, but there's a lot of variables. We just need to know where you're at, what's been done or hasn't been done, and just keep in mind that sometimes these things do take time. We can do it, but it takes
Yep.
time. We're going to do our best, but we're not magicians. We can't recreate it.
Which brings up a really good point. Have a TC on your team or on your side or in your mind before you
Yes.
get the deal.
Yes,
That saves a
absolutely.
lot of time and gets you rolling on the transaction a lot faster than if you're like, oh, I have a deal. Now I don't know what to do and I want to see what TC works best for me. That's totally
Yeah.
fine, as long as there's a longer timeline involved. But if it's
Yeah.
if time is of the essence and it's a quick close, like have your people in place, have your team in
Yes,
place, and have a TC in mind. That's an
absolutely.
advice.
And find
Advice tip.
somebody if you're I also feel like finding somebody that fits what you're looking at. If all you're
Mm-hmm.
doing is foreclosures, maybe go ahead and try out and find a TC that is either open to focusing on that or already does, because then they're gonna be ready for a lot more of the scenarios you throw at them versus, some of us might have a different focus or we can, but might not have as much experience. And that's perfectly okay. It's okay to have a go-to TC, but make it fit with what you're doing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We're here to help
absolutely.
you. And it's okay. Not all of us are going to be a good fit, and that's all right.
Absolutely.
Okay. We just got one or two more because I know we're already going a little bit. So that was a really difficult
Talking. We're
This one,
expanding.
right? I'm like, this one maybe slightly easier. Would you rather deal with a Gator transaction or a sub 2 transaction?
Sub 2. Sub
Yeah.
2. I love sub 2.
Why?
Mm-hmm. What about you? I don't know. I
Just
just think it's
curious.
just like one, I do Gator myself, so and
Yeah.
I do like that as a transaction and to TC that, but sub 2 because that is why I joined sub 2 was to be able to have a creative option and build generational wealth. So I get really excited. I get especially if it's a straight sub 2, like and not
Yeah.
all this extra
Crazy.
creative stuff on the
Yeah.
side. Like it's awesome and it's like very I don't know, I'm very passionate that
That's
sub
excellent.
2 is an option for so many people to be able to have an investment or buy and hold, build their business because conventional loans stink. Like it's hard to get a conventional loan.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah.
That's
What about
good.
you?
No, I like hearing that because I'm like, we definitely have different perspectives. I'm like, that's why this is great. Because I'm like, I think for me, I would go with Gator. I
You would?
think
Okay.
I'm like, I know we're in sub 2. And again, this is just a different side of it. I'm like, I'm not against sub 2. Obviously, like we are in the community and I definitely think it can help. I think for me, sometimes the sub 2s, they do get a little crazy because of what you said. I'm like, I guess I'm thinking more of the sense of like, it generally seems to not end up just a straight sub 2. There's always, it's like a sub 2 foreclosure and we're bringing in the Gator plus this and that, and so I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that can get a little tricky of maneuvering everything. And not to say I wouldn't do it. I just think of the two, I also really like the idea of Gator and would like to do that myself as a next step. And I just like that idea
Mm-hmm.
of, that's one of the missing pieces of going, how do we not only support people by funding some of their deals and also you benefiting from it as well, but as the TC, I really like looking at them and going, okay, sometimes it's not as simple as just saying, I'm going to give you 10,000 and then you give me 15 back. It's just not. And so I like
Mm-hmm.
understanding and able to help people protect their money of going,
Yep.
okay, there's a little more to it. We can totally do this. There's just a few extra documents we're going to need. We need to pay attention to like where this is at. You know, we've got a few states that are mutual release states that can be more difficult with your money and just kind of helping it all work out. I'm like, I like the idea of the Gator deals and I guess I'm kind of including private money lenders as well in that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of Gators and met them and seen some of those go through. So yeah, for me, I'm like, that's what I'm passionate about. I like the money side of things.
Love it. Love it.
Cool.
Okay, I think we have one more, right?
Yep,
Do you have one more on your end? Okay.
I do. Yes.
Um, So this, I kind of prefaced this already just as a side comment, but would you rather TC a rush transaction or have a longer closing time? And by longer, I just mean 30 days or longer.
I think this is another it depends. However, 'cause I'm like, I feel like I would need to know more. I
Missing
think
details.
right, because now I'm creating the story of why each side's happening, you know? You're
Hmm.
like, "Why are they rushing it? What does that mean?" And I'm like, "If it's going longer, does that mean people are not cooperating or what's happening here?" Um, rush or longer? I think go longer.
Go longer.
Bec yeah, because if I have to
And
pick
not
one,
to say
that's
30 days isn't long. It could be 30
no,
days.
that's not
That's not
bad. I'm
long.
like I think I would choose that option over the rush because
Okay.
I don't wanna rush my work, and sometimes certain things cannot be rushed. If we're preparing documents or we need other things, and, like, to an
Hmm.
extent, depending on how much we want it rushed, I definitely think
Yeah.
certain things can be rushed. Of course, we've gotta expect some rush fees and things like that in there, just
Hmm.
in case people are wondering, but, yeah, I
Hmm.
think I would go with the long close. What about
Yeah.
you?
Same. There's typically rush fees, and so that's usually what my question is. Like, if somebody is, I'll use this scenario. I'm creating stories with this question, but
Yeah.
um, so there's a wholesaler that wants to assign to an end buyer, right? They lock up the purchase contract, but they decide with the seller they're going to close in 2 weeks, which is a pretty fast timeline if you're planning on wholesaling and you do not have an end buyer. So
Yes.
that's crunch time. So my question always is, hey client, do you have an end buyer? You don't.
Mhm.
Typically, to give the end buyer due diligence and give you some time to find an end buyer, if you can extend the closing, if the seller is open to a longer close, like what is the reasoning behind a 2 week close? I always try to ask that
Yes.
of
Absolutely.
why a 2 week close, especially if you don't have the end buyer in mind. Um,
Yeah.
and you're wholesaling it. So longer.
Yeah.
I'd
That's
prefer
what I was
at
like,
least
I
30
would need to
days.
know more. Yep. Because 'cause I'm like, I've definitely had many of those calls as well, where it'll be like, when I think rush, I picture these moments of, like you said, the stories of, like, we have this and this going on and we need it by tomorrow. And then you start asking questions and it's like, oh, well, you don't have the end buyer yet. Or no, we haven't signed the contract yet. That's what we're here for you. And it just, sometimes you're like, okay, well, in that case, probably not. But I mean, if things are rocking and rolling and depending on what you need, I mean, maybe, I'm like, sometimes
Hmm.
things are possible. But yeah, no,
Hmm.
that's a good one. All
And a
right.
rush, just for everyone too, really quick, is also
Yeah.
dependent on the title. Like we can rush as
Yeah.
fast as we can on our end as TCs, but ultimately it's up to the title company and how quickly they're able to work.
I think that, and I'm gonna add on to that now because I'm like, I also think it's important to remember like this is a team sport. So as much as we
Hmm.
need the attorneys, the title company, escrow, everybody to participate, deals can also move as fast or as slow as you do as well. And by you, I mean you as the client or the parties you're choosing to work with. So the more information you give us and the more you're willing to help us, the more we're going to be able to help you. And sometimes, yes, this stuff is out of our control, but by you being willing to do that up front and having that mindset of like, okay, what do we need to do? That's going to really help things. Because otherwise, if we're at a standstill because we're not hearing from anybody, there's only so much we can do. We're a third party. We can't make certain decisions on your behalf. So definitely
Hmm.
key to keep in mind. I think
Yes,
that's
good point. Good point,
this
Evita.
this brought up a lot of really cool stuff. We're gonna have to do this again. We're gonna have to
I
do a
know this
follow up.
was super fun. Thanks for
Awesome.
having me. This was really fun.
Yes.
Hopefully, it provided some value for those watching.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, we'll put our information below how you can find Kaila and myself. If you guys ever need anything, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, everybody hopefully has a good day and we will talk to you all soon.